The finals just had its brand new update drop 5.10. We'll go over all the details with that, as well as an insanely long dev talk and dev note. We also got to check out the AMA, the Q&A from Reddit, and some of the most top-rated comments that hopefully will be replied to, which I will go over in another video later today. Last up, we'll cover some community mentionables and some hidden items on the store. We got a ton to talk about. What's up, world? It's Utopia back in another video. Today we're checking out all things the finals. Okay, so first up here, let's jump into update 5.10, where yes, as always, we do have an opening statement from Oscar. Now, most of his opening statement is basically the dev note that I'll read later, so I'll just go over the portion that's not on the patch notes, where he does mention that in this update they have temporarily removed the stun gun, and that a full rework is in play. Again, he does kind of paste the entire dev note here, but in part of his closing statement here, he says that they've been closely monitoring the server performance for some time, and that it hasn't been meeting expectations. They've actually identified a key issue, and this fix should significantly improve the performance for a large number of players. They're also doing more work on that, and they're committed to the ongoing improvements there. He also again does cover the Reddit AMA, which depending on when you watch this video might actually be live. Probably by the time I get it out, I'll probably have about an hour or two left, but it is on the finals subreddit, so I will link to it down below where you can submit your questions. And yeah, that's no longer the announcement post. You can actually put your questions in there, and they should then begin to answer those from 11 a.m. CST to 1 p.m. CST. Jumping over to the patch notes side of things, where we do have our balance change section. Now, for the first gadgets, we did get breach charge. They have decreased the priming time from 1.9 to 1.5. They said with the change to 3 ammo, the charge's priming time now feels a bit slow for its projectiles, and the adjustment aims to improve that. I will say it still feels a little slow for me, but I do get them wanting a bit of a delay there, but any improvement I will take, especially with the C4. Next up, a major change here for the frag grenade. They have decreased that ammo from 2 to 1 and knocked its damage down from 150 to 140, so you'll no longer one-shot a light. They have mentioned here that they increased the environmental damage from 600 to 900, although I didn't notice it a ton compared to the breach charge, but they do mention that the frag grenade has been outperforming the RPG, both in damage, ammo, and even cooldown, which essentially they do mention isn't ideal. That frag grenades can be a pain point for players, so they wanted to bring the grenades more in line with other explosives, while slightly buffing their impact on the environment. Again, I didn't really notice too much or destruction there, especially with this practice range area, but hopefully it does play more into the game overall. Yeah, frag grenade was a bit OP, especially in power shift. I can understand the cooldown reduction and the health, although they have nerfed RPG quite a bit. That's probably why it was doing so much more damage. Next up, we do have the stun gun, which yes, it did get temporarily disabled. Now, they do mention that a rework is coming in Season 6, so it's not permanently disabled. Now, they do mention that it was too punishing and frustrating for new players, and it lacked counterplay. Its intended use was for crowd control, not to abuse or secure elimination. There's going to be a full rework of its mechanics, visuals, and clarity, while your progress and skins for that will all carry over. And again, it will be back once it's fair, balanced, and impactful. Next up, we do have the general changes here, where they did some faster weapon animations. That goes for the lever action and pump action weapons that can now play quicker after a melee attack and reducing their downtime. They said that this was a fix for feeling clunky. This essentially was made clunky, especially after fixing the recurrent exploit or the cancel exploit, but there will be more improvements coming. Moving on now, we do have the bug fixes and updates there. We had some animation fixes here for T-posing when emoting. Audio added a headshot elimination sound. Characters actually got an overhaul here, which are new and more detailed hand models for better immersion. There were some controller fixes for navigation. Cosmetic got an overhaul too with hairstyle and their compatibility. They have several of the examples listed here. There were some more gameplay fixes for issues with gadgets, weapons, also doors that didn't open automatically at lower sprint speeds. Cash-outs can now be vaulted and climbed on, and they fixed oversized grenade projectiles and resolved extreme respawn time bug, which we did see before with people having a 500-second respawn time. Tournament had a loadout change being overwritten as an elimination fix. Usually with a lot of these larger updates, we have some map fixes, and we get those as well. Those are for Bernal, Kyoto, and Skyway Stadium. We had this massive update here, and as this Reddit post points out, we have a commenter in the community that basically comments on nearly all the finals videos, and as well including mine, where he basically has been asking for FSR 3 to be updated, or at least from FSR 2. As this post points out here, this makes the history books, and you can find the rest now. He is known as Kian Flappa. But again, we do have the official update for FSR 3. So quite the massive thing there. They do mention that the frame generation is still in progress though. They also do mention that server performance will be improved. Again, we did talk about that and go over that with the opening statement. They also had quite a big fix here for blurry world textures despite having available VRAM. There was some updates here to the winch claw, but that was just for better physics when being pulled or pulling objects. And there's also less force being applied to world objects, preventing cash-out stations from being launched across the map. They had a dev note here saying they love creative players, but launching objects hundreds of meters disrupted game flow. Especially with the cash-out station, they are a little bit sensitive with that one. As usual, we did get some security and anti-cheat updates, where they improved that client there. They resolved the EAC and Windows 2.4 H2 issue, as well as some EAC and OBS incompatibility issues. Now, they also had a bunch of UI and VFX fixes for chat messages, gamepad, play button mislabeling, particle effects, and indestructible objects. That does cover for the patch notes side of things, although we also did get the new store update, which actually gives us 5 new item sets here. The first one being the Isolt Immersion, which is a full outfit here, as well as the Golden Mean set, the CNS Anana Mask, which is quite the wacky cosmetic here, definitely different for a face, and also the Coral Strike set, which was finally added, and that was the one that Rob pointed out a few weeks ago. I also like how they show off the new sets here now where they hold the player card. I think that was kind of a cool take on that. Wonder if they do utilize that in the future. Moving on though, again, we do have the AMA post. I'll go over a few questions in this post here, ones that I think that are going to be answered or have already been answered, as this first and top comment here is about improved to server tick rate and the address to server issues that seem to be widespread. Although as they mentioned in the patch notes, they've already basically announced this and talked about it, but it does seem like this comment was made before the patch notes were launched, so they did actually open up the thread a little bit early, it seems like. But yeah, so they've already essentially answered this. They'll probably just reiterate that. Here's a good question though. Have they considered the possibility of bringing back scrapped content like turrets, trap wires, and steal the spotlight, etc.? Which I hope we do see some constant LTMs. In fact, Marvel Rivals and a few other games like basically always have an LTM in there. So I kind of hope the finals does tread with that, and that they essentially either always have an LTM, or that it's at least one every so often, or every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how fast they can put them out. But I don't think an LTM hurts the game. In fact, I think a lot of people actually do play those, and they just have fun with it overall and adding variants to the game. This one here definitely pertains to me, but they already basically did talk about this. Are there any plans to add more maps to Power Shift Pool? As someone also talks about here that they love the New Mexico theme for this season, but as someone who regularly plays Power Shift with friends, they're feeling a bit of the stagnation of maps. Yeah, again, Oscar did talk about this, that they are planning to add new Power Shift maps soon. I definitely think that that will come with Season 6. Although I'm not for sure on that, they haven't told me anything on that, but I feel like that is definitely the plan there, at least from the little bit that I know. That seems like most likely the case and the soonest they could do it. So I do hope we see Power Shift more, or at least more Power Shift maps. People are asking for ranked Power Shift. That is a long shot, but I do hope that we at least get more Power Shift maps to the rotation. And maybe take out the old ones just for a little while. That way we can get used to the new ones, but just more maps in general would help. We've also had this question here on melee weapons and how they're headed into ranked play. But I think this other question here at the bottom that this person posted was option to ban maps in ranked. I think that could be really cool, or even to ban certain weapons in general. Again, other games do this. They have bans for either heroes or just in general. I think that would be really cool and kind of dynamic to play with, just to be able to ban maps or maybe even gadgets and weapons together and whole specializations. I think that could be kind of dynamic and cool for the game and could definitely spice up the meta. Also, I think this question is really good too. Any plans for text chat, keyboard, and mouse support for consoles? I think they did a long time ago, so they were going to bring support for keyboard and console. We'll have to see if there is any updates with that one. Again, there's a ton of questions here that you can look through and go over, and the AMA should be live by the time this video goes out. Also, as a last minute mentionable here, we do have the new hidden Riot Shield skin that is available in the store. As this person does point out over on the Reddit, sometimes they do add cosmetics that aren't showcased on the store. So if you're wanting to get that, you can look through the customization screen. Overall, it should about cover for today's video. If you like, subscribe, and until the next one. Deuce!